Um, so his experience gained him opportunities to work as a land agent for a lot of large companies. Under his leadership, a significant iron ore deposit was discovered on the Gogebic Range. So the Keweenaw, he spent a lot of time in the Keweenaw. There's mining sites there, and I'm sure some of you, I saw some Gogebic students are here. There's a big mining range there as well. So over his life, he had a lot of influence in the city of Marquette. He was a mayor for a couple years, the founder of the Huron Mountain Club in Big Bay, and he donated land for Northern Michigan University and the Peter White Library. Longyear as a company today, we're over 150 years old, actually, I think 151 years old. It's a privately owned asset management company. This is our corporate office. We're located in Marquette, Michigan. Our operations spread across the entire UP into northern Wisconsin and then part of southern Ontario. Longyear is historically known as the timber and mining type company, but over the years has diversified its portfolio. And a couple of the other companies I want to highlight real quick that people might not be as familiar with are the Able Medical Devices. It manufactures and develops medical devices like surgical instruments, screws, or thoracic plates for open heart surgery. Definitely not on the mining and timber side of the business, but again, we're diversifying our portfolio. And then Forestville is one of our newer projects. It's a pretty cool company, I think. We're building housing in Marquette that will use regional forest products in the home. So for example, potlatch studs made in Gwinn, Michigan, siding at either LP facility in Sagola, Newberry, or cabinets, flooring, molding, trim, that kind of thing that is produced from materials out of our own mill, could be used in these homes. So the focus is to use regional forest products in these homes. And it's a neighborhood located next to public trails and waterways. I think of it kind of as like housing on. So the map up there shows the ownership. Currently, Longyear owns 72,000 acres. The majority of the land is in northern Marquette County. We have operations on our own fee land, we call it, state, federal, and both small and private landowners.
Technical difficulty. Keep going, Kate.
Just so you can hear me.
Well, I didn't share the right PowerPoint, so they could not see the presentation. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I'm gonna go, how do you go back? You go back, there we go. Okay. So annually we produce about 500,000 tons of different forest products. We have 10 foresters across the entire UP and in the northern lower, and are FSC certified. We directly contract with independent loggers, truckers, and road builders. And then the other picture that I have here is a few of our foresters after a successful FSC audit being recognized by Preferred by Nature for being FSC certified for 15 years. Longyear also has its own harvesting and transportation team. We have 5 sets of harvester forwarders, a buncher, and 9 log trucks that employs 20 full-time employees. And being vertically integrated from literally stump to mill, the forestry team and Longyear Harvesting and Transportation helps feed our sawmill. So the last company in Northern Hardwoods, or I'm sorry, in Longyear's portfolio is Northern Hardwoods. We produce hardwood lumber. Longyear as a company is literally a stump to mill vertically integrated company. We have 3 different locations In Niles, we have a consolidation warehouse. There's no manufacturing there. It's just lumber in, lumber out. And our sawmill in Atlantic Mine and our kilns in Newberry help to feed that. Then Hardwoods has 7 kilns, and it's about 300,000 feet of drying capacity at a time. We buy green lumber from regional sawmills, bring it there, dry it, put it through the planer, and either sell it directly out of Newberry or bring it down to Niles and sell it to some of our customers. Then all the way over West UP in Atlantic Mine, it's like 3 miles south of Houghton, so really close to Michigan Tech. Is our sawmill. That's been around since the 1960s and was part of the Mead Paperlands Corporation. So if you see your notebook of Mead Paper, that's where that started. But it employs approximately 95 people. We have 2 shifts in the sawmill. There we, as opposed to bringing in green lumber, we saw logs into lumber, sell it green or kiln dry it. And then some of that lumber goes through our rip saw for custom flooring orders. That's about 10 to 20% of what we do is sell our lumber as a flooring grade. The other grades and species of lumber produced out of our sawmill go into cabinets, doors, molding, flooring, furniture, millwork, and pallets. All combined, our company produces over 20 million board feet per year out of all of the facilities. So because of the products that we produce, housing is obviously a huge driver for our business. When housing is down, sales is down. The majority of our products do end up in a building and are the interior finishes. So kind of the last thing that goes into a house as opposed to your studs and your rafters. And so we use housing data to kind of predict where our market's going to be going and how business is going to look. This table here came out in January from Virginia Tech and the USD Forest Service. Shows some positive and negative movements in housing. I'm going to focus on the housing starts and the housing permits and then look at the single family, multifamily units together. Just for reference, multifamily, that's kind of like an apartment condo style type building. Single family is your typical single family type house. Typically to the multifamily in an apartment is more of your cheaper finished products. So you're less likely to use solid hardwood or hardwood products in those finishes for the house. But overall housing starts, and let me back up, housing starts too is defined as when the groundbreaking begins to build the house, and then a housing permit is when a permit to build is awarded. So we look at 2 different things. In our markets too, we usually look at rebuild, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like renovations. That's a big part of our business too, but we're going to just focus on housing starts here. Year over year in January, housing starts were down of the housing market, the potential building market over the past couple of years, but the forecast this year and next year show that we expect rates to come down. So more building is typically good for our business. That should increase the amount of homes that are built. But what the builder or the homeowner choose to put in the home at the time of completion is where our composite competition comes in. So do they choose the composites or do they choose hardwood? So now to get into the actual composites. Flooring is a large portion of what Northern Hardwoods produces. Again, 10 to 20% of what we sell is flooring. So I'm going to focus on this product as just one example for the competition with composites, but the themes for some of our other products really overlap and are very similar, like cabinets or furniture. On this table, we're looking mainly at the resilient flooring and wood flooring categories. Year over year, with the exception of the 2023 forecast, the resilient floorings, or LVT, has outsold solid wood flooring. 2021, all styles of flooring were up. That was a huge remodel year. It was kind of COVID pandemic time. People were in their homes more and stuck in their homes, so they wanted to improve it and make it nicer. So 2021, all styles were up. And then 2023, a recession was forecasted, so all styles were down. But then 2024, it's forecasted that everything is going to rebound, but LVT is going to rebound the strongest. And LVT is luxury vinyl tile. So that's one of our biggest composite competitors is LVT. It was stated in the Hardwood Flooring Magazine Industry Outlook of 2024 that LVT, WPC, laminate floors, WPC is wood plastic component, another component, will negatively affect those members by 67%. And then those same members, 72% of them said that LVT is the biggest threat to solid wood products. So the competition from composites poses a threat to our business, the people we employ, our industry as a whole. There's a time and a place for composites, but I want just to advocate for using hardwoods as much as possible. It competes with our business interests and our bottom line, but I just want to advocate for some of the benefits of using hardwood. I think we subconsciously or consciously know that hardwood products are better for the environment, but research over the years has proven it. So here's a graph of environmental product declaration, which is equal to carbon footprint or total greenhouse gas emissions. Solid hardwood flooring has the lowest carbon footprint of all flooring options. And compared to our biggest competitor, LVT is 4 times worse than hardwood. To get this data, 2 life cycle analyses were developed to determine the environmental impact over the life cycle of the product. So extraction of the raw material, transportation, production, packaging, installation, use, maintenance, and disposal were all accounted for in putting together this EPD. Depending on wear and tear and maintenance, hardwood floor can last over 100 years. LVT is, our competition is cheaper, less maintenance, but the longevity and durability of wood floors compared to LVT is a value to be considered. Wood floors can be resanded and restained to a different color over time as the trends change. We're constantly looking to new trends and following that. So there is that option to change the color of your wood floor. Another downside to LVT is it does not degrade. It's produced with different glues and resins, some with PVCs and other chemicals, and will not stand up for 100 years. When you look at the total life cycle of a hardwood floor versus something like an LVT, and you compare the cost with the lifetime of it, hardwood floors are equal to or cheaper than these LVT products or composite products. Another benefit of the solid hardwood flooring is it sequesters carbon. The benefits of stored carbon, we're focusing a lot on the stored carbon in the woods right now, but there needs to be a focus on stored carbon in our forest products as well. And then the benefits of the solid wood flooring are replicated in many of our other products. Like I said, like our cabinets, our doors, the different flooring, and we're seeing increased composites and increased competition with the composites. So now to some of the positive things that we're seeing. You know, the next question is, what are we doing to change the narrative, to be competitive and take back some of the market share? We need to advocate for ourselves and for our industry, is all I've heard over the course of my career. How Healthy forests are produced by sustainable management and its products are renewable. The industry, we all have a great story to tell on what we do, but a lot of us would rather be out in the woods than talking to a huge group of people. The hardwood industry, we've lost market share because we haven't been out there advocating for ourselves as well as we probably should over the past 50 years. But now I just want to highlight a couple positive things happening. So the Real American Hardwood Coalition, this is a group, and they're one of the groups out there educating and advertising the benefits of hardwood products. They actually have an advertising contract with the Magnolia Network, so Chip and Joanna Gaines, to promote these Real American hardwood products. And then there was a season, the Castle season, one of the fixer-upper seasons that they featured Real American hardwood products in. So if you're on Instagram or social media, check them out. They've got a nice website, the Real American Hardwood Coalition. I think it's an excellent way to reach the consumer and educate them. So that's one positive thing that's happening right now. And then another recent positive movement was the signing of an MOA between the U.S. Forest Service and partners to collect credible carbon data to account for the benefits of forest economy and forest products as a natural climate solution. So again, the carbon storage being a hot topic, and the focus has been the storage in a forest. In order to move with this carbon economy and get credit for the carbon stored in our products, a third-party verification system needs to be put in place, and this is one of the first steps to make that happen. So it's very exciting that is in the works right now. And I think it's going to incentivize more people that are interested in lowering their carbon footprint to use our products. So these are only two, I only mentioned two examples, but there's a lot of good things happening in the industry with many organizations and associations. And then we all need to keep the momentum going. So everybody here, if you can educate your family and friends and choose hardwood products in your next DIY project, that'll help us out all in the end. Then if anybody has any questions, I will try to answer them. Yes.
On the slide with the graph with comparing, yeah, that one, is that tons of carbon like sequestered or released? What are the units we're looking at here?
That is a good question. The global warming potential. I am gonna have to look at the table to let you know that. I can let you know after this.
Thank you.
Got one over here. All this.
Sorry, she's handing it to someone. Okay, hi, hello. Okay,
Over here, Kate.
hi, Kate, sorry. So the LCA slide, I'm just wondering, because this is just one study, right? This is like one study.
I'm trying to make eye contact, right?
I'm here.
Okay, hi.
This is one study, no, the LCA slide. This
This
is
one.
one study, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what the system boundaries are for this study? Just that, not that I'm challenging the results, but I'm just wondering because if you want to include things like transporting the logs, well, that
Mhm.
would
That was included.
inflate, that was included.
Yep,
And
that
then
was
like,
included.
that's really cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, so the entire life cycle of the product, the extraction from the woods all the way to the
And like growing
landfill.
process and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yep.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Justin Epper with the Michigan Association of Timbermen. I just wanted to say that I completely agree that the flooring issue with LVT is very problematic. I think I'm connected a lot with construction companies from previous work, and the amount of looking at the history of how American remodeling and then new construction works, people just grab onto the latest fad and the latest trend, and no one ever thinks about what they have or what they could have. That's so much easier. I just personally redid 140-year-old white pine plank flooring in my house that took a day and a half and maybe cost me $2,000 to redo the whole thing, and it would have costed 10 grand to put in LVT. And almost everybody I talked to said, "You're such an idiot. Why would you redo that floor? You should just go put in that easy click stuff." And I'm like, it looks like garbage, it feels like garbage, and it is pretty much garbage.
Thanks, Justin.
Good morning, Rich Kobe, Michigan State. I would also point out, this is more of a comment than a question, that vinyl chloride is a major ingredient in the vinyl tile, and was the toxin of concern in the East Palestine train derailment.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other environmental aspect to this.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's something, again, that we don't really think about, but I mean, when that spill happened, that was part of the LVT product. So transportation, again, I mean, it can be kind of dangerous.
Hi, thank you for presentation, Michigan State. So just curious, with hardwood, are you also trying to explore your prospects with the mass timber using your hardwood product?
Our sawmill is involved with Michigan Tech in some of that research, yes. Right now, we're not actively producing anything for those, but that is, yeah, another future product for our company or potential future product.
Might be an out there question. I'm a tech student. Do you guys have any plans for advertising for wood flooring or other more sustainable products that you guys create just to get away from like the vinyl flooring?
Yeah, so the Real American Hardwood Coalition, they are one advertising outlet. We as a company have our own website and some of our own social media on LinkedIn. But so once the product leaving our facility is a flooring grade, it still needs to go to another flooring mill to be produced into an actual floor until it can be sold as a floor. So we're more of the raw material that goes into the flooring. We're not the final product.
I have a question for you because you had announced it earlier and I missed it. What was the social media for this? You had mentioned a social media page, and then I was going to look it up with my district one to follow it and reshare
Real-
your stuff.
Real American Hardwood Coalition.
Awesome. Okay, that is what it's called.
Oh, thanks. For those of you that are interested in this whole carbon wood sequestration climate stuff and how wood fits into the picture versus other raw materials that are out there, first of all, I did a lot of looking into this, and my friend Jim Boyer did too, University of Minnesota. He sort of pioneered life cycle analysis in wood versus everything else. And based on what Jim has done and Dovetail Partners has done and the research that they've gone into that, if you're really interested in it, you first of all, rest assured that wood beats the snot out of anything else when it comes to environmental impacts. It's way ahead of the next competitor. But if you're really interested in it, Jim Boyer wrote a book encapsulating a lot of what his life work was in these life cycle analyses. It's called The Irresponsible Pursuit of Paradise. And it's really eye-opening. And so if you ever question, well, should I be cutting trees? Is this a bad thing? Am I impacting the environment in a negative way? No, you're not. You're doing good things. And if you need the science behind it, it's there. And I would suggest that you, or recommend you start with Jim Boyer's book. It's really eye-opening. He's an interesting individual.
All right, so once again, thank you, Kate Miller. And I bought that book last week, Bill, so thanks for the recommendation. All right, so our next speaker is Carrie Devine, coming to talk about master loggers and what's happening out there in the woods with master loggers. And if people in Zoom world am I sharing the right screen here? If we're good, send me a text or put something in the chat there, but thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Mike. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Carrie Devine. I'm with the Sustainable Resources Institute. That's who I'm representing today. But I also am with the Renewable Resource Solutions. And both are based out of Crystal Falls in the Upper Peninsula. One's a for-profit, one's a not-for-profit. And we do a few different things with our for-profit. I'll just give you a quick blurb about that. We provide lots of forest industry services. So I'm not a forester. I hate to say it in this crowd, but a fisheries and wildlife by training. But work mostly in the forest industry now. We provide a lot of forest industry services. So we have clients like Lake States Lumber Association, who is a big part of working with the American Hardwood Coalition in that marketing effort. We work with the Great Lakes Kiln Drying Association, American Loggers Council, Timber Professionals Cooperative, providing administrative services for them, trying to help forward the forest industry. And with our not-for-profit, the Sustainable Resources Institute, we work a lot with loggers, and we do trainings in forest industry education as well, some restoration, grant writing things. So one of the things that we do under that not-for-profit is the Master Logger Certification Program. And we do that in both Michigan and Wisconsin, which allows us to kind of leverage some of the resources across the Great Lakes. So today I'm going to talk to you about Master Loggers and how you can maybe promote that by learning more about it. There's an opportunity to improve forest management with loggers. So over 300,000 acres were harvested in 2019 in Michigan, and only 5% of landowners have a forest management plan. So I know I'm talking to a bunch of foresters, and you probably know that landowners should work with you more than they do, but they don't. And there's an opportunity if we train loggers to get best management practices on the ground pretty efficiently, because loggers are on every timber harvest. So I think loggers play a really important role as stewards of the forest, and there's an opportunity to improve the role that they can play in Michigan. And the Master Logger Certification Program can help do that. So the certification program itself was initiated because certification is a way to be positive that people have what they need. So obviously, as this was developed as FSC and SFI were coming on board, LEED was coming on board, and certification is important to people so that they know what they're getting. And so it's a voluntary program that just recognizes logging companies for meeting and or exceeding a set of standards. And that set of standards is a national set of standards that was developed by the American Loggers Council and is still supported and endorsed by them. And then there are different state or multi-state programs that manage those templates within the regions they work. So in Michigan, there's a Michigan standard. Wisconsin, there's a separate standard for Wisconsin. And then there are various programs across the country, not too many, but there are a handful. So historically, the Master Logger certification came about in 1998 and started in Maine. And that program is still standing and important, pretty tied to FSC. And there are multiple states that are now in that Master Logger certification program that initiated out of Maine. And then Maine worked with the American Loggers Council, and the American Loggers Council adopted and developed that template based around 7 areas of responsibility. And so it's currently housed under that American Loggers Council so that there is a national template, and they approve any of the state templates. So Michigan got their template approved in 20 years ago already. And that program in Michigan has come and gone a little bit. It certainly is at the whim of the loggers whether or not they feel that there's benefit in the program. And I can tell you that it's an exciting time to be a master logger in Michigan, because Mike Smallgan has done a great job advocating for Michigan master loggers and bringing federal funding into the state to provide benefits to loggers so that they can put best management practices on the ground and improve our forests. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's certainly an exciting time, and I can see the program growing very soon. So we are working in partnership with Justin Nepper, who just spoke, but with the Michigan Association of Timbermen. The way the template with the American Loggers Council works is that it falls under the state members. So Michigan Association of Timbermen is a state member in Michigan, and our Sustainable Resources Institute has an MOU with Michigan Association of Timbermen to administer the Master Logger program for them. So here's a little bit about that structure. So we're the Sustainable Resources Institute, and we contract a private consulting forester, Van Oss Forestry Services. Brock Van Oss is the program administrator, and he runs the day-to-day of the program as far as working with our field verifiers, working with our logger members, working with our certifying board. And then the Sustainable Resources is the umbrella that oversees the program, as well as does grant management and financial management of the program as well. Our Master Logger Committee is key. So as I said, each state has its own template, and that template is overseen by ALC loggers. And then there's a logger committee that interprets that template and institutes regional differences for each program, provides guidance, and just gives direction for the program. So it is definitely for loggers by loggers, and that's key to the success of the program, so that loggers have engagement and stake in the programming. So we have different regions, and we have logger representatives that are on that committee providing guidance for the program. And then we also have a certifying board. So the certifying board is made up of different stakeholders across the forest industry. Those are the bolded. So there's master loggers from other states, wildlife, universities that have forestry programs, DNR, landowners, et cetera. And all of these folks are on the certifying board, and that's who decides who becomes the master logger or not. So that certification process resulting in the certification board starts with an application and is followed up by a lengthy interview where we get to learn more about what the company does, what kind of equipment they have, what their goals are, what their issues are with the industry, and making sure that they're eligible to be a part of the program. That interview is then followed by a field verification. And that field verification is done by a forester and a logger. Talk a little bit more about that. And then certification, if they meet the standards, follows that. And then once they're certified, we do a re-verification and a recertification, hopefully every 3 years. That is funding dependent, but we've been able to achieve that in recent years. So to be eligible to be a master logger, you have to own or operate logging equipment, and you have to have your own business. So there's no brokers in the program. And once a logger is interested, they complete that application. There is a fee to be in the program, and then they participate in that interview, and they provide 5 timber sales to our program. And out of those 5 sales, we're looking for active sales that have water RMZs on them, and try to get a mix of ownership if they do different ownerships. And then that logger is then responsible for participating in the field audits. So we do field audits on 3 of those timber sales. At least 1 has to be active, and the others are expected to be completed in the past year. There is some flexibility depending on the size of the company. They may not have those completed in the past year, so we are a little bit flexible about that. But the logging company, the applicant, is expected to participate in those field audits. And then the audits are provided to them so that they can review them and provide any feedback that is shared with the certifying board as a part of that certification process. So our responsibilities in the certification process, as I said, are to select 3 of those 5 timber sales for field verification. And we identify auditors. So we've got a small cadre of auditors. And that's one thing I would look to you today. If you have interest in exploring the possibility of being an auditor, we need more auditors across the state. It does definitely take a special skill set to work closely with loggers. So reach out if you're interested. During the certification process, we have both a forester auditor and a logger auditor go on the sites together. So they go together. We ensure that they don't have any relationships or issues with the logging company that they're auditing, and they both do the audit. They both take pictures. They both complete the audit form. They do that independently of one another. So ideally we're having 2 independent audits done, and from both perspectives. And then they review that audit, provide some feedback, and our program administrator does that, works with the verifiers, and then provides that to the certifying board and communicates any issues back and forth with the board working through that certification process. So the role of the verifier is to really provide that snapshot of each sale. We do that by, you are just there one time. It depends what process the sale or what part of the process, how far completed the sale is when you're on the site. But we do, like I said, have 2 completed sales and 1 active sale. So hopefully we're able to see everything through the auditor's eyes, through their photos, and through their completed audit form. And all of that is confidential, so it's a confidential process. The auditors don't share whose site they were on or any specifics. When we take pictures, when they take pictures of, say, an operator in a piece of equipment, we put a big smiley face over their actual face when we show the certifying board the photo, so everything's anonymous. And then the verifiers, when they're out on out in the woods with the loggers, there's always this temptation to provide education or kind of tell them what to do while they're out there. But we're not a training program. That's not what the audits are for. They're just assessing what's being done on the ground. So that's one thing we're careful to do, stay within our lane. And then they do share the findings of the audit with the logger, so everything's transparent. The loggers are fully aware of what the certifying board's going to see. So the audits themselves are of a set of standards. So there's 7 areas of responsibility. Here they are for you: production of water quality and soils, compliance with both federal and state regulations, silviculture and utilization standards, logger training, so they're required to have SFI training, aesthetic management, and then site-specific management plans, harvest plans that are agreed to by the landowner. So contracts is really what that comes down to. And then the use of sound business practices. So we look at all aspects. These are the 7 areas of responsibility that come down from the American Loggers Council. And then under each of these areas of responsibility are standards that are developed by the states in conjunction with the ALC template, and that's what's assessed on the ground. Here's a little snapshot, a small bit of the audit form, but you can see that with the RMZs and wetlands, these are the performance standards that are assessed on the ground. So over here, what the auditors have the choice of putting. So it's either meets, not meets, not applicable. Down here is consistently exceeds, periodically exceeds. So there are some different options depending on what's on the ground, what the logger is responsible for. Sometimes the logger wasn't responsible for something that's done on the sale, so they're not held accountable for that. And then again, once that certification is completed, then there's a recertification process that happens every 3 years. And when we recertify loggers, we just look at 1 sale, and we have 1 auditor go out after that initial certification process. So again, benefits of the program. The program started because that's when things were going green and people were looking for a certification, a stamp of approval, and the logging industry didn't have one. So they started building one for themselves that they're able to manage themselves. The Master Logger program is a national program, so it has both state and national recognition, and the member companies can use that logo, the Master Logger logo, as well as using the American Loggers Council logo on their company outreach materials. There's also, we've worked with some of the insurance companies, so there's discounts on certain insurance lines. And we provided some marketing materials that we give out to our members that promote the Master Logger program, and they can promote it to private landowners. That's where we see some of the greatest differences where people are looking for a little extra something. When you have a piece of land and you don't know how to go about getting that timber harvest done, or how do you find a logger? If you have a stamp of approval, you're a master logger, that can help them get business, and that's what they've reported to us. Another one of the good benefits of the program is that we have been an arbitrator in complaints. So whether that complaint is with a landowner or a state forester, when our loggers are working on state sales, we've been able to have the administrator play a role in mediating those complaints, if you will. And that's been really successful. Sometimes it just takes somebody else to come in and kind of calmly talk through a situation, and that's saved a lot of money, I think, for some of our members. We also have an online directory where the loggers are listed, so that is a huge benefit to them. We have pretty good use of that website. It's also linked to some of the DNR sites, so that's helpful, especially again when private landowners are looking for loggers. And then finally, one of the biggest benefits that we have is the Sustainable Resources Institute manages an FSC chain of custody group certificate. So you have to be a master logger to participate in that group certificate. And that is a huge benefit to some of our master loggers. So in Michigan right now, we've got 68 master loggers. In 2023, we had 4 new applicants, and we conducted 25 recertification audits. And we anticipate conducting another 14 recertification audits this year. And then actually wraps up recertification of each of our current members over the past 3 years. There have been some handoffs in the administration of the program. So we've only been administering it for about 1.5 years, not even quite. So we just got that back, and we're playing catch up from the past. So we're glad that's ready to, we're there. A little bit more about the FSC chain of custody. That is a huge benefit, and Aruco is a big part of that. They also donate to the program, contribute to the funding of it, so we appreciate that. We've got 8 of our master logger companies who are using that FSC chain of custody. They're all supplying to Aruco. And the way that we work that out is we have what we call preferred vendors. So Aruco is the only Michigan mill. The others are Wisconsin and Minnesota. Again, we run the Wisconsin program too, so that's where some of that's coming from. So the preferred vendors receive wood from master loggers. If they use our FSC chain of custody certificate, then they pay us per ton, and we don't charge the loggers anything for those services. So the loggers have free access to that certificate, and the mills are paying SRI by the ton, either for round wood or chips. We do have a couple informational webinars coming up on our chain of custody certificates. The dates are there. If you're interested, you can reach out. And then I want to tell you about some of the new and exciting things that are coming up for the Master Logger program. Again, thanks, Mike, for getting us a ton of funding and making good use of those federal dollars that are out there, bringing it to Michigan. So we have a few different programs that are happening right now. One is the Forest of Michigan faucets, and that is to get loggers below the 43rd parallel. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. There's lots of things going on there. So we're working on that. We did a tour and tried to engage some of the mills, tried to identify some champion loggers who would meet the logger standards in that part of the state. And we're still working through that. Another project that we have, this is a Forest Service grant that we were able to secure. We're just starting this project. That's the landscape scale restoration project. And the idea behind this is that we will be able to incentivize master loggers for implementing best management practices on the ground. And one of the stipulations with that funding is that it cannot be for anything that's moving dirt. So it can't be for road construction, it can't be even for water bars. There are some limitations to the federal funding that we learned about after we were awarded the grants. We have to be creative. So the only thing I can think of right now is seeding landings, but we're working on it. And that will allow us to frankly educate loggers about best management practices, encourage them to do it, provide them a financial incentive to do it. And as a part of that, we'll be conducting trainings on soil erosion and water quality, and conducting audits and spending more time with those loggers in the woods. So those are all good things. The next project is down here is the technical assistance for protected forests that was recently awarded that Mike put in, and that is not yet here, but it's coming up. Another exciting opportunity that we have for master loggers in Michigan is the Portable Bridge Program. And we're a little bit farther down the road with this. So if you're aware, there's bridge funding available from the Forest Service for every state across the country. And there are maybe 6 to 8 states that have applied for this funding. So Michigan is one of them, and Mike Smolligan secured that funding for the first year. And future years as well, we're going to go after. So we're putting together a project team. This project will bring portable bridges and make them available to master loggers. And we're hoping to get bridges at least across the UP and the northern lower for now. And we've putting together a project team looking for master loggers to be on that, so we can make sure we have the right kind of bridges, that we have them stored in the right locations. We're working out rental agreements of how loggers will transport and rent those bridges from the program. So we've got $175 in hand, and we are kicking off our first survey. We're figuring out what loggers need as far as size and different specs. And then we're going to be putting out an RFP for those bridges to be designed and built in the near term here. And then for anticipated funding that has been awarded to the state is $300,000 for the next round. And then there's a possible funding of $600,000 that the state of Michigan can ask the Forest Service for. So that can go to future bridges too. There's anticipated a 5 years total of funding. So that's a lot of bridges, and that's a lot of sediment, removed from the waterways. So there's a big opportunity here. Again, our timeline is we're hoping to kick off that RFP so that we can get those built, and hopefully we're going to have those bridges, the first bridges, available by 2015. And then it's taking us, obviously it's our first time, and like I said, not many states are doing it. We're working with different programs across the country to understand how they're doing it. But obviously building bridges and renting them out to loggers is kind of no small task. So we're figuring out the logistics of that. Once we get that done, we'll be able to plug and chug a lot faster with the next round of funding. And then I'll just leave you with, it does make a difference in how can you as foresters get involved. This is from the website, and this is the online directory. So these are some pretty local loggers, master loggers. And if you want to check out that directory, you can identify loggers master loggers that are in your service area. You can learn more about our program by checking out the website. You can talk to me. You can talk to our program administrator. You can talk to Justin Nepper as well. And you could recommend to your landowners that they use master loggers, knowing that those master loggers are adhering to those 7 areas of responsibility and a higher standard on the ground. If you know loggers that are good loggers, they would be a representative of the master logger program, send them our way. Reach out, share their names with us, and sell wood to them, buy wood from them. And with that, I'll leave you with the website, mimlc.com, and then my contact information. And Brock Van Oss, the program administrator, is listed there as well. Any questions?
Have forestry.
Bryce?
Hi, how do you, one of the areas of concerns was aesthetics, and how do you go about addressing that? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, yep. And I do have a copy of the audit form is on the website, so you can read through the specific performance standards that are under aesthetics. One of them is like slash height. You know, it's just things like that. And that's really landowner dependent too at sometimes. So there is some interpretation there, but I would encourage you to look at that audit form. It lays it all out online.
Hey, Carrie. Do you think that master logger is complementary to or competing with the qualified logging professional?
I
And
think,
why do we have two,
yep.
or two education associations in Michigan for a logging group?
Well, and this is a certification. It's not an education. So it's a little bit different. It's a certification, a stamp of approval, a marketing tool.
That what QLP is too, though?
Well, I'm not familiar with QLP to the extent that I would want to talk about it, but master logger is not really there for education. Master loggers are required to have education and to complete that, but that's they have to have that to even get into the program. So it's if you ask master loggers why they do it, it's a sense of pride. They want to be able to associate themselves and call themselves master loggers. And so it's really that step above that they choose to participate in it.
Over this way, Carrie.
Can you elaborate on the trouble working in southern Michigan with loggers?
Well, the forests are different. And so there aren't markets for some of the small diameter wood. So the standards that are part of our program require utilization. And some of that utilization is difficult to achieve without markets. So at first glance, that's kind of where we're at. There are also, there's not a sense of community there. So there's not an established standard there. We don't have any master loggers there. So it's kind of where we're breaking new ground, and that's always harder. In other areas of the state, we have strongholds or champions, and we don't have that yet in that part of the state.
Hi, Ivan Witt, in Gaylord, forestry consultant. Are the workers on the ground required to have the training as well as the boss who is goes to the trainings?
Do you mean the SFI trainings that are required?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're held to the SFI standard. So it's one person on the crew has to have it, who's on that sale.
One person who's an operator, not just the boss driving around in a pickup truck.
You got it. Yep.
Okay, let me figure out how to get to you.
Did you have one last question over there?
I got one last question over here.
One last quick one there, Tony, go for it.
To answer Jim's question, I get to do some of the work on the SIC with the QLPs and on the master logger. So the QLP is the education. The master loggers are the application of that. So the audit finds out whether or not that teaching from QLP is actually working. So they are definitely complementary to each other.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
All right, our next speaker is Evan Farinosi from Michigan State. Evan, thank you so much for being here.
Okay, does everybody hear me okay? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so like Mike said, sorry, this is the largest group I've ever spoken to, so bear with me. I'm Evan Farinosi. I work with Dr. Walters in the silviculture, the Applied Forest Ecology Lab at Michigan State. We've been working in northern hardwood forests for the last 8 years with some funding from the state, and we're going to work through some of the findings. That's the current state of the stand composition of our research sites and some potential avenues for future management. Just an overview of what I want to talk about today. I'm going to start with the research overview, which is a very large project with lots of moving parts and a long timeline. The first piece of data that we have to come out of that research is the pre-harvest data. So we have a lot of different sites that I'm about to talk about, and we have diameter class distributions for every size class that we can check out. There's some concerning some concerns and some management implications for what these stands currently look like. And we're researching some avenues for increasing regeneration success, both with selection systems potentially and alternative management, where we're maybe looking at some even age stuff or some more intense uneven aged systems. The last thing I'm going to talk about today, if I get to it, I think I'll be okay, is the alternative management findings. We've put these in. We implemented these different treatments about 7 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago, and we have some stocking results that I want to go over with you. So I know we're mostly professionals here, but we have some students. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're working in northern hardwood forests. These are maple-dominated forests on mesic soils for the most part. Generally sugar maple, maybe some red maple, and those sandier environments in the UP in some locations. Economically, really valuable whitewood that's coming out of these stands. They're ecologically valuable for many different species, migrating passerines and lots of good stuff. They're widely managed via selection silviculture, so uneven aged management. We'll go through to make sure everybody's on the same page what that looks like. And we're currently facing regeneration challenges in many parts of the state with this cover type. This is a picture from one of our research sites that I think a lot of people would probably be envious of when it comes to the seedling and sapling layer. I've got 5 different species here. And this is not the result in every stand across the state, but this is one of the stands. So, okay, so some causes of northern hardwood forest regeneration challenges are multiple. They're interacting, right? Losses of local seed sources, either due to logging and timber markets in the past when we maybe weren't so interested in species diversity. Hemlock and yellow birch come to mind. Successional processes, right? These are generally even age stands from the early 20th century, and they were losing things like paper birch and early successional species that kind of make up their early lifespans. We also have limited seedling establishment environments for some of these species. So with selection silviculture, we're generally pretty light on the land. We generally are logging during the winter in many places, and that's limiting the kind of the ground turnover, right? We have a lot of northern hardwood or hardwood litter on the forest floor as opposed to bare mineral soil or humus that might be conducive for things like small seeded birch and hemlock. Also, another thing that comes with uneven age management that we've been practicing is relatively low understory environments, which leads to the next point that I have here. American beech and ironwood generally thrive in those environments. And they're two species that we generally don't want to manage for right now. So we have a lot of seedling and sapling layers of those species that dominate many sites, not the entire state, but many regions. And then we have sedge issues in certain parts of the state too. There's lots of other competing vegetation going on as well, but we'll stick there. And then I think we all understand intense deer browsing is definitely an issue in certain parts of the state. And those all interact, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, so just to mention the research, these are the research sites that we have in the project. It's 140 sites. They're all 30-acre squares. This was a joint funding from the Forest Resources Division and the Wildlife Division. We got some in-kind funding from some industry partners in the UP as well, where we're testing some novel silvicultural treatments that are more intense than selection silviculture. We have two pieces of data that I want to talk about today. Pre-treatment data, where we collected information probably 10 or 20 years following the last harvest in most of these sites. These were sites that were ready for a regeneration harvest. And we're going to start with that, and then in a little bit I'll get into the post-harvest data, the limited post-harvest data that we have so far, but we're getting there. People can't. Is there a way to get this to go up, Mike? Or no? Okay, so what that says above there is diameter class distributions for pre-harvest data. So for every stand, we have a diameter distribution curve that we've created, and we're comparing in this. This is an example here of uneven age management expectations that were created by Arbogast from sites in the central UP, showing that reverse J curve that we'd hope to see lots of small seedlings and saplings or saplings on this curve in those smaller size classes that are reduced via density dependent mortality or logging, as it were, over time and through partial harvests, right? So this curve is something that we want to hopefully have we want to, the goal at harvest is to be able to remove stems in these size classes to attain this residual stand structure, right? Or something close to it. That's the blue curve, that Arbogast curve, that Q curve. And we have one of our stand structures from, this is a site in the northern lower peninsula where this is very indicative of many of our stands. There's a increase or an extra, right, excess stems in that small saw log class, and very, very little going on in the pole and sapling class. There's some age issues with that class when it's available too, which we'll talk about. Another thing to note with this is that these surveys were done 10 or 20 years after the last partial harvest, right? So we're hoping that we have something similar to that curve immediately following or close to following a partial harvest. And even after 10 or 20 years, we're still very limited in these smaller size classes. So it's a little bit misleading to say that even if you're reaching this objective, you're doing what our guests would hope. Okay, so I don't think I have anything written up there. We're going to work through these different classes that they've broken down here. The large saw log class, that greater than 16.5 inches. There's not much of a regional pattern here. There's some stocking above the curve, but generally it's the median stand, as I have written here. The median stand, so 50% of the stands are greater than are 75% or greater toward that Arbogast curve, and the other half are below that. This is probably a mixture of the age of these stands and the way that they've been managed so far, relatively less low intensity. So it just might be an age issue for some of these stands that are just not there with creating those large saw logs yet. And also timber markets, right? So in some cases, this is probably an effect of the fact that you know, those are valuable, very valuable logs, taking up a lot of growing space, and maybe it's best time to get those out of the stand in many situations. The interesting stuff comes with the smaller size classes, but the small saw log class at 9.5 to 16 inches is what we have a plethora of right now, right? So these are, again, this is due to that even age creation of these stands. This is that first disturbance cohort that is 100, 120 years old and is really well stocked. Down into the pole class is where we start to see a little bit of regional pattern and a little bit more concern as far as the stocking from stand to stand. We've got the median stand is at 99%. So that means that half of the sites are not meeting that curve essentially, while the other half are above this. And then the one that's really concerning, if we're thinking about uneven age management, is the sapling class, right? The 1.5 to 4.5 inch class, where we should have a lot of stems that are able to go through the process of weeding themselves out over time, even if it's all sugar maple, is doing very poorly. And there's a couple slightly bright spots in the eastern UP. Generally, this is areas where we have a larger red maple component as far as species are concerned, and parts of the Keweenaw Peninsula where things are a little brighter is also performing a little bit better. But this is pretty bad news if you in fact need that much stocking at those smaller size classes to do what uneven age management is trying to do. Okay, I think I can see everything here. So basically what we did is we took those 141 sites that we have in the project and we broke them down into stands where selection is approximately working, or it's at least approaching working, where at least that pole and sapling class is generally greater than 80% stocked. So again, we're being pretty liberal here with calling it a successful partial harvest diameter distribution, but nevertheless. And then we have stands where it seems to be not working very well, where either the sapling or the pole class is less than 80% stocked. And it's generally, as you can see here, the sapling class that is super limited. And then we have the final class where the final group is just really not working. We've got both the poles and saplings are less than 80% stocked. And we really truly we still, after multiple rounds of partial harvesting, still have this even age composition. Okay, so concern number one is kind of that's all a concern, what I just talked about, but this is kind of the wrap up here. Partial cutting has not developed new cohorts in a majority of the research stands. Stem and more so, more to the point, stem diameter does not equal stem age. This is probably not news to a lot of the foresters in this room, but we have this, when we do have a sapling class, the median stand age of the sapling cohort that my colleague Catherine Henry, she took a ton of cookies, aged them, looked at the age distributions, and the median stand sapling age was 67 years old, right? So if you're creating new regeneration via partial harvest, that is not a number that you'd expect. The pole class is not much better. The pole class at 91 years for your median really shows you that these are likely suppressed stems from the initial cut, right? These have not been moving into the canopy over time. These are just probably now reaching into the canopy after, being a shade tolerant species. This is all sugar maple, by the way. Apologize. This slide is sugar maple. The rest of it was all acceptable species, but yeah. So we're not even, we're not creating that different age cohort. We got some size distribution in some sites, but it's not the age that we would expect via the partial cutting. And then the bottom figure here, younger age cohorts are missing. 73% of the stands that Catherine looked at this sugar maple cookie data on had 0 cohorts less than 50 years old. So 75% essentially of the project. That's not great. All right, bear with me, guys. We got some stuff to get through. Concern number two, I think this is, we're not just thinking about ecologically what the consequences of this are, but economically, there's some data out of the Menominee Reservation from Dan Day, who does a lot of great work showing that whitewood and veneer really starts to decline after about 25 inches and greater than 150 years old. And again, these stands that we're managing right now are 100 to 120, right? So we've got 30, 40 years to figure out how to regenerate these stands if you're interested in regenerating these stands. So we're not at the end of the runway, but trees take time, and you're kind of getting to the end of the runway. Yeah, that's okay. So another concern that I've talked to a lot of foresters over the last decade working with Mike, and one of them is just the fact that we might actually be seedling limited in some sites, right? We are managing these relatively at relatively low intensity, leaving basal areas pretty high, and that's maintaining small crowns on these trees that are left over on your residual, and many of them, right? So their diameter is maintained at a small diameter. I think the average stand diameter in the project is 10.5 inches. So this is some research not related to or a side project where we looked at stands in the central UP, and I collected seedling establishment information on a really good massed seed year that we had back in 2014. I've been doing this for a long time, and that information. I also collected the canopy structure data within 40 meters of all the plots that I collected, that I did. And this is the result, is this seedlings per hectare, apologize, nerd stuff, and number of trees greater than 16 inches on the x-axis here. And what we see is definitely a relationship between larger size classes and greater seed production in that massed seed year. And putting more seeds on the ground is not going to stop a deer from destroying your advanced regeneration, but you have to have the advanced regeneration to begin with to get to the deer problem, right? So higher densities of large diameter trees are likely something that are going to increase our probability of increasing seedling banks for something like sugar maple. I'm talking about sugar maple here, but right, this goes for there's that allometric relationship between size and crown canopy and seed production is probably pretty strong across a lot of different species. So this is probably good information for any species. These lines that just showed up here are when I took the information from our stand composition from our large research project, our 140 sites, and mapped them onto this figure. The median site had about 10 of those 16-inch trees per acre, which is obviously pretty low on this curve that we've created. So a lot of stands could be, or at least in theory, could be limited by just seedling establishment. Certainly could be helped by some larger trees in the site. And the concern for the seedling to sapling recruitment bottleneck, right? So even if you do get those seeds on site or those seedlings on site, they have to get through a gauntlet of competing vegetation and deer browse. When we look at, so this is something we published a couple of years ago, looking at sapling counts of desirable tree species or browsing trees that were desirable for browse. They are definitely related to deer use that we measured and the basal area of trees greater than 4 inches. So when you combine those low light environments, these low intensity partial harvests and high deer populations create, those slow growth rates of that seedling bank that you have, that's a bad recipe for deer problems and actually getting some recruitment. Okay, so this is I'll try to go quickly through this. Stands are generally even age still despite this partial harvesting. We're generally lacking a density of those large diameter trees. We have high basal areas, heavy deer populations in many parts of the state. Modifications of selection might be something that we could look into doing or considering even aged alternatives, right? Many stands are reaching the point where regeneration needs to be prioritized if we want to maintain that forest cover type on that land and we want to manage it. We could just leave it alone, but I don't think anybody's in the mood to do that. So So modification of selection silviculture when it's kind of working, right? When we're kind of reaching this diameter class distribution that we would hope. More large diameter stems, more seedling establishment, retain those big trees. If you don't have those big trees, identify good candidate trees for the future that you can hold on to. That would be good candidates for that. Lower basal area to increase the seedling to sapling recruitment. One thing that I talk to foresters a lot, we don't have any research that necessarily looks at this, but they see you get, even in places where you get that sapling recruitment, you see it stall out before the next partial harvest, and you lose a lot of the stuff that you worked really hard to get. So lowering that residual basal area is probably something that's going to help with that. It's going to keep gaps in the canopy open longer before that next partial harvest comes. And maybe you don't wait to do the next partial harvest until that gap closes up or that overstory closes up. Putting these small group selection or increasing the use of small group selection, especially near mid-tolerant tree seed sources or in places that you actually do have some advanced regeneration, would probably be a good move. And this is something that I haven't spoken to yet, but we are interested in the future of increasing species diversity for resilience purposes on these sites. So it's, really thinking about what local seed sources do you have for those species that you're absolutely not recruiting into the next cohort, and really trying to focus on ways to do that is probably a good move. Okay, so potentials for even age management. I'm going to have to do some triage here, so I'm going to think about this. When selection is clearly not working, we can look at some results from alternatives. It says potential for even age management up top. The state of Wisconsin silvicultural guidance. This is a even aged stocking diagram for northern hardwood forests. When we look at the stands that we have in this project, many of our stands are fully stocked or overstocked in terms of even age stocking on these sites. So if you're thinking about even age stocking, we have the trees for it, the land base for it. And given the age of these stands and the mean diameter, which is still relatively small, it's probably a good idea to think about thinning these stands soon from an even age perspective, and probably aggressively, because we really need to get going on the regeneration front in these stands. Okay, so this is the 5 minutes for the last 6 years of my life. So the harvest treatments that we put in place are something akin to single tree selection, small group selection. That is kind of the status quo for what has been going on since the 50s. Large group selection, where we punched in gaps anywhere from a 1/4 acre to an acre in size. That's the bottom left here. The shelterwood system up in the top right, where our goal was to maintain about 50% canopy closure on these sites. And the seed tree system, where we only left 6 or 8 trees per site. And in both those even age treatments, that shelterwood and that seed tree system, we really focused on increasing or maintaining residual species diversity. Even if that tree was kind of shitty, we kept it, and kept vigorous stems of the common species, right, that we want to use to provide seed. Oh no, don't do that. Okay. The understory treatments, there's 2. Each site got one of these understory treatments. We either left treetops after logging, we left treetops after logging, which definitely varied site to site with overstory structure, and herbicide and scarification, where that was meant to try to get rid of those sapling advanced regeneration layers of like American beech and ironwood that we thought might stymie any regeneration that we actually wanted. And that scarification in order to increase germination substrates for those small seeded species when we were lucky enough to have them in the overstory. The leaf tops treatment, we were hoping, there's a wildlife side of this project too that's working hard to get some information to us, is looking at how those tops are being affecting deer usage on the site. So we got more information coming on in the future. 1026. So the stocking surveys is what I'm going to talk about today. This is going to be if you want to talk to me more about this, I'd love to talk to you later about this. These stocking surveys are not like an exhaustive density survey. This is density and evenness of standard generation for things that are in competitive growing positions, essentially. We did 405 millacres per site, and we did this on all the leaf top sites. The herbicide Scarify sites are not quite as far along in their regeneration process yet. The two categories that are most useful here are these free to grow stems, right? These are desirable tree species greater than 4.5 feet tall. So they're kind of through most of the browsing issues and the competing vegetation issues, and they're currently free of competition. So yeah. And then we have undesirables, and we're mostly interested in that free to grow ratio. I'll talk about desirable species just to say that we included early successional species as desirables in these stands, which is maybe kind of interesting to loggers who are not trying to grow aspen on a hardwood stand. But the idea is that these should create pretty good environments for new seedling regeneration and sapling regeneration. So if you didn't have the advanced regeneration in the first place, at least these species are creating an environment that would help you with that. I think sugar maple, red maple, black cherry, and yellow birch were like 80% of the desirable category. Most of the undesirables that we collected data on were American beech, ironwood, and raspberry. Those were the three most significant. So how are these harvest types altering species composition? Are we seeing successful recruitment? And do we see patterns with harvest type or region? Okay, species richness. All species, including like woody shrubs, right? We're seeing greater harvest intensities increase our woody plant diversity. That's not a shocker. But we're also seeing more relatively abundant species, right? So when you look at species indexes that kind of take in the evenness of species, how much of that species is represented on the site, we're seeing these even age systems or these more intense systems increase that number, which is good for resilience. There is a lot of within treatment variation, and this is generally stronger within these systems that are creating wider range of light environments than the selection system. Shade tolerance classes. So this is looking at just as specifically at tree species. The greater harvest intensity is creating more even composition, right? You're generally losing lower tolerance classes. So sugar maple, American beech, ironwood. You're seeing lower representative proportions in highlight systems, but they're being replaced by these early successional or mid tolerant species that would be useful for management. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do this. Now let's just go to free to grow. Okay, so we're gonna focus on the takeaway here is that we have really high stocking values in these sites. Most of the growing space is occupied at this point. Most of it's occupied by trees. But when we look at trees that are desirable for management is where we see that dip right here. We see an increase in that free to grow category proportion as harvest intensity increases. Yep. Mike, can I have 5 minutes? Okay. All right. So I don't want to. There are some things I want to hit here that are pretty important. So this is a regional map of the different systems that are in their own little boxes here. We can probably all see that there's some regional trends here. A triangle means that stand did not reach a 40% threshold. That's roughly 400 stems per acre of desirable species, right? A circle means that it did. And we can see here that for these free to grow stems, this is kind of regionally dependent, except for that seed tree harvest, right? We're getting that 40% because early successional species are helping get us to that 40%. We're not seeing that in the other systems that are less intense than that seed tree system. When I do some analyses that look at statistical significance, it's called a hotspot analysis. What we see here are these trends. We've got these areas of blue that have really high consistent values of free to grow threshold. This is not including the seed tree sites. So these are the sites that are affected most by that are not reaching that threshold. Basically, South Central, Western UP, Northern Lower Peninsula, we're having major issues even after these different types of harvest. Something interesting that came out of the data that I'm working through right now is that the lead species per site, the identity of that lead species, if it was desirable or not, was a really strong indicator of a stand passing or failing to reach the 40% threshold. And when I say the lead species, I mean, it is the species that represented the most number of plots on the site. So that could have been 18%, that could have been 36%. Regardless, like 95% of the time, that was the answer to, are you getting a site to hit that threshold or not? Which might be interesting for management. I got to work on that a little bit more, a little bit. Very big take home, 6 years post-harvest, what is best explaining stocking survey outcomes? And advanced regeneration, maybe not a surprise to a lot of the foresters in this room, is really important, especially for shade tolerant and mid tolerant species. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but if we look at this map of recruit density in 2017, so this is pre-harvest for sugar maple, we see that the stuff that's green or black is greater than 500 stems per acre, and the stuff that's red is very minimal, right? Very minimal advanced regeneration densities. And I'm going to just toggle here for a second because I'm terrible at PowerPoint, that this is what the free to grow plots look like in 2023. So if you just look back and forth, if there's green, right? Northern Lower Peninsula, right? The two locations where we actually had some decent advanced regeneration, and I'm hoping we can visit one of them tomorrow if we don't get rained out, is one of those sites. But advanced regeneration for red maple, elms, yellow birch, red oak, black cherry, conifers, it's the same more or less story for those species, all mostly desirable for our objectives. Yeah, this is a caveat. This is 6-year data, right? These stands are going to evolve over time. Lots of stand dynamics that are going to occur. Advanced regeneration is important. And those smaller size classes, even though we have a deer and competing vegetation issue, are important as well. And when I look at some data that we also collected this summer, the shelterwood and the seed tree sites generally have more sugar maple in those growing positions that are below that 4.5 feet. So as far as what I see in the future occurring, I see those shelterwood sites and those seed tree sites comprised of more maybe desirable tolerant and mid-tolerant species than the large group selection and the selection sites that we're looking at. You might get some better results with selection systems if you're thinking about decreasing that basal area to keep that canopy open, prioritizing gaps in your seed sources, maintaining large trees on the site. And when saplings are non-existent, maybe it's time to start thinking about even age management given the age and size class, size distribution. So I apologize I knew that was going to be too much. I didn't know it was going to be that too much. So thanks very much for your time.
Burning question out there,
thank you for bringing that up. So we have funding. We'll do some remeasurements. Oh, I should also mention we're doing very intense survey work on these sites too. We're not just doing these free to grow stocking surveys. We're also doing nested circular plots where we're getting actual absolute species densities for different size classes. We have data, or we have money to get us out to a 10-year harvest on these sites.
As far as the residual top ones where the tops are left,
Yeah.
are you talking saw logs only removed or also down to the pulpwood?
Yeah, this is interesting. So with research, things are sometimes a little bit messy with such a large project with 140 sites, or 72 where we left tops. Some loggers left pole timber down to that 8-inch size class, right? In practice, I don't think that's doing anything to help with deer movement, right? So leaving the large crowns of canopy trees where there's some 3-dimensional size to it that makes a deer think twice about going into it is what is more important. So it shouldn't be an issue with, if there's a pulp market, I don't think that pulp on the ground is doing much good. Did that answer your question? Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, folks, it's time for a 25-minute break, but I first have to make a announcement I'm dreading to make. At 6:15 this morning, I got a phone call from a friend staying at the Ramada Inn last night And she woke up with a great big fat swollen bed bug in her bed. And I feel obligated to tell you that if you have a reservation at the Ramada Inn today, you may want to see if the Days Inn has a room available and try to switch to the Days Inn instead. So I apologize for sending 190 people to a hotel with bed bugs, but if there's one, there may be more than one. So I'm sorry. Everyone knows Ramada's a crappy hotel, but we didn't know how crappy it was. So, all right, we're coming back here at 11 a.m. So 11 a.m. Try to upgrade your room before everyone else does. Get that recording going again. Get the screen share going here. Try to hide this annoying ribbon. Yeah, I don't know where it is anyhow. All right. Thank you, Terry. You're all set.
All right, good, still morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. There we are. I am officially in Michigan. Thank you, everyone. Excited to be here. Excited to share some things going on with SAF nationally. And most important, to leave some time for some questions. I always enjoy just having that interaction with folks. So I've had kind of the infamous responsibility at many state society meetings of giving talks right before lunch, giving talks right after lunch, giving talks during lunch, giving talks before the end of the day. But I am marking a very special occasion here. I've never had to give a talk after a bed bug announcement. And so not quite sure how you follow that up, but I figure the bar's either really high or really low. So I'm going to just run with it and say that it's low, and you're all going to be amazed with what I say over the next 20 minutes or so. So, you know, I am the CEO of SAF. For those of you who haven't met me, I've had the opportunity. I am a forester, so that's often a question I get. I am a forester. I spent about 19 years working for the U.S. Forest Service in different parts of the country as a field forester and a wildland firefighter, and then eventually worked in management positions before coming to SAF in this role. Throughout that entire time, I was an SAF member, still am an SAF member. So sometimes folks are like, well, you're paying yourself. I'm like, shouldn't I? Shouldn't I want to have an organization that I want to be a part of? So I continue to pay my dues each year and be involved with SAF, not only as a CEO, but as a member. We've been really active as an organization. I would say over the past 3 to 4 years, there's been a lot of things going on, a lot of conversations. Obviously, as you were, many of the presentations that have already happened and some to come, there's been a lot of investment and interest in our profession and what we do and how forests are a part of climate solutions and federal and private investment, international interest. And that makes for an amazing moment. It also makes for a very overwhelming moment. It's you know, the light's shining the brightest on the forestry profession. And what does that mean? How do we show up in those spaces? How do we engage in this work and make the most of this opportunity? Because this is, I think most people in the room would say, who've been around for a while, this is an unprecedented moment of interest and investment in the forestry space. So how do we make the absolute best of it? So I'll come back to that a little bit later, but I'll talk about something that's really important to me within SAF, and that is by far partnerships. We are an organization that cannot do it all on our own. And we have a lot of great national partners, and each of them recognize they can't do it on their own. So we work together to look at how we can make things happen for the profession, how we can meet the needs of the professionals in the room, and how we can move the sector forward on very, very important conversations and issues. So one of the first things I'll share around that partnership piece in particular is we actually meet with a variety of national forestry associations, or I meet with them on a monthly basis to talk about what are the issues of the day. So this is, you know, the American Wood Council, National Alliance of Forest Owners, Association of Consulting Foresters, National Association of State Foresters, and the list goes on. There's about 12 or 13 of us. And one of the main reasons we meet is actually around policy issues. And so when you think about a lot of, you know, different sectors, there's a fairly focused group of policy issues. We have a spreadsheet of somewhere close to probably 30 different policy issues that impact forestry. And again, none of us are staffed or funded to address every single one of them. And so it's that whole piece of prioritizing who's taking the point on what, and also who's supportive of what. And that creates a space for us to say, while we may not be working on roads, we will get a notification like, hey, there's a big roads issue. Are you willing to sign on to this? And so for us at SAF, the ability to look at our national position statements and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if we'll sign off on being a supporter of a national policy issue that one of our partners is working on. So that happens on a regular basis, but then it's also this conversation of, again, how can we leverage each other? What are the major challenges that are popping up that we're hearing about? So that continues. Interestingly enough, 2 weeks ago, that was 2 weeks ago, I was at the Mass Timber Conference, the International Mass Timber Conference. And you're like, of course you're at the Mass Timber Conference. Hadn't been able to make it yet, but one of the main reasons I was there is because I was invited to be present and have a conversation about the profession of forestry. So in the push for mass timber, the growing questions from engineers and from architects is how can you guarantee me that this wood product is sustainable? And so some of that's those folks taking their own research and trying to figure things out. But to be totally honest, some of it is like, well, I've gone to a few webinars and I've read some books. I'm like, they're like, I can manage a forest. I can write a management plan. I'm like, no, you can't. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you about the rigor of what it means to be a forester. And I know there's been various questions and comments about what does it mean to be a member of SAF? And these are some of those things. Is talking about certification, talking about the level of rigor and the actual knowledge domains that are required for that. Talking about accreditation and what that looks like and what it means to stand up a program like that and have that across the country, and really setting the stage of what it means and why there is a level of, that there is a standard that every forester must meet when they graduate to practice, and the breadth and depth of knowledge that they have. And so when folks started hearing that, they're like, oh, this is a little different. And when you mix in that piece of like, this is not just a science, you know, the infamous definition of silviculture, the art and science, that really made people think. Because the assumption was, well, it's just like building a building. I just go out and I do these things and I get trees and we're sustainable. There's this unique little thing that pops up when it comes to managing forests that we all know, called people, called landowners. And they can make it a little more complicated than just running through and just managing a forest. We all know that. And so being able to be at that conference and have those conversations was really, really critical. And I think really helped us substantially when it comes to those pieces. Another thing that I've noticed with those particular groups in relation to states like Michigan and also SAF carrying the certified forester, certification is becoming more and more important, because the same thing, they are without any knowledge of what we do, they're looking at what represents our commitment to continuing education, what represents our commitment to an ethical practices, all those things, and they have no other gauge. But for them, that is having a credential, having letters behind your name, saying that there is some third party that is, for the most part, guarantee you are going to operate in an ethical way, that you are going to continue to stay current on what is the best science and the best knowledge and tools and techniques to be effective in doing this work. And so this is becoming more and more of a conversation as we have, again, folks who don't know about us now start asking questions about us because of the spotlight that is on forestry and natural resources right now. So it's a really interesting dynamic and really fascinating conversations. And I think probably one of the more fascinating parts of it is it's a really simple conversation. You know, we go to school, we learn a lot of technical terms and all those things, but then when we start asking folks or they start asking us what's going on, they don't want to hear any of that. They want to know that you care about the resources that they care about. They want to know that you value the resources that they value. And that's where the trust comes in. That's where they move to a place of like, okay, now talk to me about trees per acre. But until you establish the fact that they can trust that you care, because that's what's most important to them, that you care, they will sit there and they'll glaze over. So it's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting time to be. And I think oftentimes from my seat, what role does SAF have to help everybody be successful in this work? So some of the things that we've done recently to try to move forward on some of that was, some of you may remember, may or may not remember, we produced a pro-forestation one-pager briefing paper for folks to have that. We saw this gap when it came to our position statements, issues of the day, and the ability to just have, like I was mentioning, more of a non-forestry conversation about some of these challenges or some of these discussions that people are hearing about that get them very excited about our profession. And so we made the pro-forestation one-pager. We made two briefing papers on mature and overgrowth forests, because that's become a big conversation with the executive order and what that looks like and how, again, we can engage on that and help people have something that they can just give to people. Like, what is this conversation? One of the things that folks may not have noticed, but given some of the first conversations and presentations this morning, maybe about a month ago, something we started doing with our national position statements is we've started creating briefers. So again, kind of that same 1 to 2 page document, very, very simple, but something that you can hand to a policymaker or even a family member and say, this is what this means. This is what you're hearing on the news, but this is what this means from professionals in the space. So as we update national position statements and or create new national position statements, we're creating these briefers that go along with them for those folks who don't want to read 6 or 7 pages. So we actually just released one on carbon in the built environment. So as we were talking about resources related to how do we start to tell this story about carbon and, durable wood products, we saw that gap as something that we needed to be able to help bring out, our perspective and our lens to that story and have something available for professionals to engage in that work. So that's really exciting for us. And yep, that's on the website. You go to I think advocacy, and it'll have a position statements listed, and you can pull up that briefing paper. So that's something that I think, again, is really, really helpful, because as we talk with our partners, that's been the question. It's just like, oh, there's carbon in living trees. Well, there's carbon in your coffee table. But no, it can't be, because that means we have to cut a tree down. Like, yeah, it's okay. And we'll replant it. I mean, you think I'm joking. The number of conversations where I've had lawyers, various types of professionals that are just like, well, I thought every time trees get cut, a parking lot gets put in. Like, that is a common assumption that people have. So there's just so much that we have to figure out how best that we can overcome, how we can help with that, how we can communicate that a little bit better. With that, we've had quite a bit of growth in our staff. We've had some unique opportunities that we've started to take advantage of. So about a year and a half ago, SAF merged with the platform #ForestProud. So we're excited to have that relationship and that organization and the community that they bring inside of SAF, something I've heard my entire career. How do we talk to people not in forestry? And I was like, there's a way to do that, but I'm not sure if forestry will ever pay for it. And thankfully, ForestProud had been around for 5 or 6 years. And so bringing them within SAF and starting to have more of those connections to the professionals who do this work, especially in light of all the workforce challenges right now, have been a great opportunity. So we continue to build on that relationship and having that program as part of SAF. The other piece that I would share, as far as another big announcement that we made maybe a year or two ago, well, no, last year. No, 2 years ago. I've been in this job 5.5 years. Blows my mind sometimes. A lot of fun stuff has happened. So we recently made an announcement about adding 2 new professional credentials to SAF's suite of credentials. So one of those was in urban and community forestry, and then one will be for forestry technicians, so folks with 2-year degrees. We actually launched the application opportunity for urban and community forestry at the end of last year. And we're just now kicking off the development process for the forestry technician credential soon. So we're excited to have those 2 pieces to really help support professionals in those spaces and how that brings together all that happens within SAF. And we've had a really good response. So I would say, I think I haven't gotten updated numbers, but definitely in the first 6 weeks, I think for the urban and community forestry credential, we had over 200 people start the application process. So there is a need for what that means and how it helps support folks working in those spaces. The other piece, I've got about 5 more minutes. The other piece that I would say, as far as kind of unique partnerships, is that we work with, we have a long history with the Association of Consulting Foresters, and we were able to work with them to develop the 2nd edition of Intro to Consulting Forestry that was just announced and made available maybe a few weeks ago. Really excited about that. Had a great group of folks, authors that came together that were from both organizations, and have had quite a positive response to that. So really excited about that partnership. And again, how it represents where we work together best, how we leverage each other, how we make a difference, how we support professionals in this space. So really excited about that relationship with Shannon McCabe, the executive director there, and that organization, and what we can continue to bring to the profession. So as we move through this new set of dynamics and opportunities that SAF has started to take on, we're looking at different opportunities. There was during the logging presentation, there was the professional logger presentation. There was some discussion about some of the federal funds that are coming into the state, apparently thanks to Mike. And so we've looked at some of that as well. What are some of the opportunities where we can, again, kind of help fill gaps and build out capacity within SAF? So some of you may have seen an email where we're doing a pilot project with the Forest Service with Job Corps centers and doing conservation education. And if you're interested in that, I think one of the first places we're going to be going is a Job Corps center in Wisconsin. And the next one is going to be in Utah. But a chance to get, again, professional foresters in front of students to showcase the opportunity and the pathway and what that can mean to work in forestry and natural resources. So this whole dynamic of like, how do we start to get out in front of people? How do we make things more accessible and available? How do we showcase the great things that we do? And, you know, when I have a chance to talk to students, I often say something I learned many, many years ago. And I was on a hotshot crew, and we were actually doing trails work in Virginia, I believe. And one of the places we took a break, it was just this most picturesque scene where like all the trees just kind of opened up and you could see just out into this valley. And it was just one of those moments where I was just like, we get paid to go places people pay to go. And that is just one of the most amazing things about the work that we do. You know, how many folks in this room know where the best hunting spot is, or the best shade tree is, or the best place to go camping? Like that is this unique piece that ties us all together, that is a part of being in this profession. And when I think about that in particular, I think about some of the comments that have been made about, you know, why SAF, why be a member of SAF? And oftentimes there's like, everyone has their own unique reason why. And that's very, very true. And you'll find that reason why. I know for a lot of the students in the room, why would I be a member after I, you know, graduate? Because, you know, I can get a job and then that's it. So I want to say really quickly why SAF for me, and why it was something that was really critical for me as a professional before I took this job. So like I mentioned, I work for the U.S. Forest Service. It is a bureaucracy's bureaucracy. Yep, those of you who laugh know what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of, you know, protocol. And so as an employee of that organization, I wasn't supposed to talk to people who were outside of my chain of command. You know, if you want to talk to this person, you got to talk to this person first, and maybe you can talk to this person in 2 years. So one of the pieces that was really valuable for me and being a member of SAF was going to SAF meetings. I got to walk outside of that hierarchy. I had the chance to talk to people about not only my career, but their careers, their career paths, what it meant to them to be in the positions that they were in. And that led to new opportunities and things for me that were really exciting and helped me navigate my career. Folks that are still mentors and friends to this day that I met when I first joined this organization and got involved. Another reason for SAF, you know, why SAF for me was just this piece of like what it means for an organization to be around for 124 years this year. And what that means to set the standard, to set the example, to be there for each generation of professionals and what those professionals do on the ground for the resources for not only their local communities, but for an international community. Like we have this amazing piece of work that we do, and the passion and the excitement and the innovation that comes along with it. So much of it is shared through SAF, through conferences like this, through online webinars, through a whole host of things. And like when I think about why SAF, it's that piece of like, a lot of times we'll say community, but like, what does that community mean? It means having a standard that I can stand up and talk to architects and engineers. And it's like, yeah, we are a profession. We are a real profession, I promise you. And we're here to make a difference, and we make a difference every day. And our ability to represent that, our ability to stay current, to support each other, and to be successful is why SAF for me. So I don't want to spend all of this time talking at you. I do want to just remind folks that we have the National Convention coming up in Loveland, Colorado in mid-September. So that's going to be really exciting. I think we had well over 300 proposals submitted by the end of March. So that's exciting. We're going to have a great program, and looking forward to just, you know, seeing what else comes on the horizon. And of course, again, for all the students in the room, I look forward to working with you and hoping that you come be a member of SAF and help us do some great things. So thank you so much for having me. And I wanted to leave time for questions. So please, all the hard questions, as Ben likes to say. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And two-part question.
Okay.
Can you just speak briefly on national membership trends?
Mhm.
And also with the U.S. Forest Service, why do we not see the membership and participation and the emphasis from leadership that we used to see?
Mm. Great question. So overall membership trends, I would say we had, been on quite the declining trend for some time. I would say that we saw a little bit of an uptick from 2021 to 2022. And then also 2022 and going into 2023. So we're actually hovering around that 92 to 9,300 member spot right now. We're looking forward to, got some great ideas, I think, on how we can reach out to folks and start to grow that a little bit more. One thing I didn't mention during my comments was we actually held our first Rising Professional Conference about a couple of months ago for folks under 40 and for students, professionals under 40 and for students. And we had quite a few folks sign up and join SAF as they had that space to focus on what was impacting them. And just as a quick note on what that is for a lot of our younger professionals, it's, when you think about coming into this profession and going and working, a lot of times you think about field work. And some of what we're starting to hear more and more from folks is like, with the amount of turnover that's happening, they're like, I had 2 years of field work and now I'm supervising a crew or leading a program with no training. So it's an interesting spot for some of our folks who are early in their careers. Great question about the Forest Service. There's, again, bureaucracy of bureaucracies. And one of those challenges definitely can be as leadership changes, how they see those types of things and how they support really overall, all member associations. And so that's something I've been talking with a couple of the other major associations, the Wildlife Society, Society of Range Management, and American Fisheries, about possibly trying to create some joint letter from us to not only the Forest Service, but BLM, BIA, and several other organizations. So we're working on that. But then I think, when it comes to getting Forest Service employees and involved in SAF and having them rejoin the organization and be a part of it, I think a big part of that, has to do with, to be totally honest, and I don't know of this experience here in the Lake States, but I definitely know it from my time in the West working for the Forest Service. It can be rough because that dynamic between the, federal agencies, especially the Forest Service, private industry, state agencies, like a lot of times you walk in the room and there are not a lot of nice things said about you. And I don't know about you, not many people would pay to walk into a room and have not a nice things said about you. So I think that's one of the things that we have to think about as an organization and how we frame conversations and concerns and issues and not just point fingers, because many times those are the folks that have no control over some of those management decisions. So that's my piece and I'll stick to it. Other questions or comments?
I've stumbled across some media articles, mainstream media stuff, where they're talking about biomass, and they're obviously opinionated articles, and the author is trying to equate biomass utilization with land clearing and so on and so forth. And as a consulting forester, it's very hard to get rid of biomass. And some harvests, you have just enormous piles of tops, and you need to do something because it's a fire hazard. And I was wondering, can SAF play a role in trying to counter these articles, or is it just too many of them? Is it too much whack-a-mole?
So that's a great question. We get that type of question quite often, and there's a couple of things that we think about when it comes to that. So a couple of things that we look at when it comes to challenges like that, and kind of mixed information. Part of it is working on building strong relationships with various folks in the media, so they come and ask us to have more of a balanced opinion piece, or response to opinion pieces. But yeah, I would say, there is a bit of it that you have to be really careful about. You can't respond to everything because there literally is just too much. There are a lot of people with a lot of opinions about what we do. And you have to be really thoughtful about that response, because oftentimes, like I spoke about before, if you undermine that article, it gives the perception that, again, it's not about valuing the outdoors and the land and the trees, it's about money. So there's a dynamic to manage there where responding can actually make things, unfortunately, maybe a little bit worse than they are by having that out there. And so that piece of, and that was also a piece of us wanting to merge with Forest Proud, is like, how do we just have a consistent message about what we do and why we do it and why it's a good thing? Because it is really kind of disparate out there from the various organizations that do a little bit. And oftentimes it's in response to something versus like, no, we're just going to talk about the good stuff, and we're going to talk about how things work, and we're going to talk about, you know, where there's challenges or where we can improve, but it's going to be our version of that story, and it's going to be consistent versus we're just going to attack this person because they said something bad about us. So it's a great question, but it is definitely a challenge to really be strategic about how you respond to some of that stuff. But I would also say, I'm fairly certain that they're a part of, or I don't think it's a standalone, on biomass as far as a position statement. And I'd say, you know, start to share some of that information. It's a great compilation of information about like, this is why biomass is important. And part of it is actually the opposite of what you said was written, which is keeping forests as forests, because it brings value to it. Other questions or comments? I know I didn't cover everything. Or is everyone just changing their reservations tonight to the day? All right. All right. Well, again, if there's nothing else, a huge thank you to all of you for being in this profession, or being adjacent to the profession, helping important work happen on the ground, and hopefully either currently or will be soon a member of SAF. We got a lot of great important work to do, and we'll need all of you to do it. So again, thank you for having me.
All right, we're going from National SAF to Michigan SAF. Ben, let me get your slide up here.
Craig, do you want to do awards first? Let's do that first.
Yeah, let me, this one?
Hello, everybody. My name's Craig Casmer. I am a proud 30-year member. Wow. I know I'm old. You are too. Not fair. I'm the park interpreter at Hartwick Pine State Park. And so for those who are going to be going on our rainy adventure tomorrow, thank you for joining along. We have some of the folks that are here, and I've got those pins. You can read for yourself. So I'll be at the table if you want to pick up your pin this morning, this afternoon. I do want to mention that we do have 2 awards for Forester of the Year and Young Forester of the Year. They are not here. Sarah is on Zoom. Sarah, so we've got your plaque. At the fall meeting, we'll hand those out. And there's been a blurb, a bio written for them by the people that nominated them. So we'll save those until the end. Also, Dr. Terry Sherrick is a 60-year member. The 50-year and the 60-year members get plaques as well. So I've got those. I know he's on Zoom, so congratulations on that. Other than that, I think that's it. Like I said, I've got the pins. Short and sweet. Yeah.
Craig is our awards committee chair on the Michigan SAF board. So thank you, Craig. And then I'll actually, is Larry Leifers around still? Yeah, Larry, you want to come and talk about another award, SAF Fellows? This one? I should sit up front.
I like Old Forester. I've got 3 bottles sitting in my home bar called The Woods, by the way. So if anyone wants to go to the woods, just let me know. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Larry Liefers. And I actually asked Ben if I could take a few minutes to talk today to the group. So you may regret this before I'm done, but nonetheless, I'll try to stick pretty much to a script because otherwise I'm old and I wander. So I'll, put up with that. And by the way, just to show that there is some wisdom, since I'm wandering, there is some wisdom. I already checked out, but I did it this morning before I knew any of this stuff. So at any rate, I am currently chair of the policy team for Michigan SAF and very interested in policy and continue to do that. We have a lot of work to do, and I'll be sending out some notes via SAF in the not too distant future for some projects that we want to work on. I retired technically from Michigan State University at the end of 2015. It's hard to believe, but I've continued to be involved in a variety of things. And I will say I haven't retired from SAF and I haven't retired from forestry. We are in SAF perhaps, but we're also all in forestry. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. I joined SAF in 1976. You can do the math. I'm not quite up with my good friend Mike Vasevich, and I'll take his plaque, I'll take it to him. But at any rate, I've been at this for a while. I was the Michigan SAF chair in 2009. That was the year we decided to have 2-year terms. We changed our bylaws, 2-year terms for the chair, because otherwise we were constantly in elections. As soon as someone came in, we started going for the next one. And I think it's been a stabilizing force for our society. And of course, it was after my 1-year term and we didn't make it retroactive, so another point of wisdom. Oh, I want to talk just briefly about some of the awards at SAF. I'll make it pretty brief. Up here on the front table here, there's this sheet, and this goes over different national level SAF awards. And so I encourage you to take a look at it. It starts out with SAF Fellows, and let me straighten this up a little. I want to chat some about SAF Fellows as part of this, but also there are a variety of awards. When you flip over on the back, it has, for example, Student Leadership Awards available. It has Outstanding Local Unit Achievement Awards, Outstanding SAF Student Chapter Awards. So if those folks from the different colleges here, universities here in Michigan are interested in that, start looking into it, find out what it takes, because I'd love nothing more to see than a competition and the winner of which will be a Michigan school. So go for it. That's all I can say. They're there for the taking, I'd say, because who can be better than Michigan? That's my bias. So in this past year, Dr. Tara Ball, where is Tara? Oh, I thought maybe Tara's on Zoom. I saw she was on the list, but okay. So Dr. Tara Ball and I joined the SAF Fellows group. So we reached that and it's a great honor. It really is a great honor. And when I was young, I thought that it was the old guys club. Who's an SAF fellow? Well, the old guys are SAF fellows. And but that's not the case. I mean, certainly Tara is an example of that. And my longtime friend and colleague, Dr. Karen Potter-Witter, many years ago became an SAF fellow. And I'll see her Sunday night. I'll see Mike Vasevich Sunday night as well. But it's not an old guys club. There are lots of opportunities for young folks to find this award. And so just briefly, I'd like the SAF fellows who are here, just want to acknowledge them. Could you raise your hand, stand up, whatever, there are a couple of them here. Denny, Bill Cook, these guys. I mean, this is a lifetime commitment. You might start young, but it's in your blood. And so certainly, it looks kind of like an old guys club, doesn't it, when you look at it? And I'll duck down a little so you don't see me. But at any rate, it's a great thing. The National SAF website lists 24 fellows from Michigan. And I don't know if, and I talked to Craig Casmer earlier, he said there were no applications from Michigan, this great state. There were no applications this year for fellow. And there should be. Pardon? There was? Okay, Craig didn't know about it. Craig, there was one. It's not the same organization that Terry worked for. We don't, at any rate. So I would say, what is, in the future, I think we should have a lot of nominations for this, and we need to work as a society to figure out who these folks are. I could name quite a number, and I'll be in touch with some, because we should be nominating folks for this. But I have to add, in my notes here, I said, so what the hell is a fellow? What does that mean? And when you go on the website, when you look at this, it describes what a fellow is. And some of the text here, it's an award for an SAF member of longstanding service to forestry at the local, state, and national level. And I was talking to Terry Baker earlier, just to clarify, it doesn't say it's strictly an SAF thing. It's forestry writ large. So whether it's urban forestry, consulting forestry, whatever it is, what role you play, but it's intended to create people with a broad background in forestry. And they become, as it says, ambassadors in forestry. So I want to encourage us to, find those people and make it happen. And, when I stand here, I haven't talked to a large group in quite a while. As a retiree, I look at myself in the mirror often, but that's the largest group I may be talking to. But when I look at this group, I realize everyone here could someday be a fellow, everyone. But in order to do that, you have to make a commitment. You have to look at forestry and SAF, and perhaps, and say, what is it that I want to do at the local level, at the broader state level, and at national opportunities? So you have to look for those opportunities and talk to others and figure out what you can do. So look. So, when I think of being a forester, I just, I smile. I look at all of you. I smile and I just say, you gotta love it. I mean, wow, Terry, you gotta love it. And I know all you folks do. You love being foresters, forestry students. It's a wonderful way of spending your lives. So bless all of you. I hope all goes well in your careers, and thank you.
This slide. All right. Ellie and Joe, you guys want to come up? Oh, geez. Okay. Scared me. How's everyone doing this morning? Cool. I'm Ben Schramm. Work for the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, manager of private lands forestry programs, and I serve as a state society chair for Michigan SAF. And this is actually my second term, ending here at the end of the year. We'll talk about that in a second. Joe Nash, our treasurer, may have some things to say about our treasurer's report to let you guys know our financial health and situation in Michigan SAF. So Joe, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll keep moving. Yeah.
Okay, so Michigan SAF has money. That is not an issue. So we're in a good place. Let me try and hide this. What I want to talk to you all about is we need your help spending it. So we have the money in the bank, and we have had a long history of people having some great ideas and not having the time or commitment to follow through with those ideas. So there's a flyer here up on the registration table. There's a handful of them. Take a picture, if you will, on your phone. we have a couple budget items in particular that we're looking for people with ideas and the time and commitment to champion those ideas so that we can use the money that we have allocated for member leadership development and especially donations to better the forestry community at large. So if you have an idea, let us know. There's a funds request form. I'll email it to you if you're interested, and we'll go from there. We also, students, have $10,000 budgeted for the National SAF Conference. So if you are a student member of SAF and you are not planning to go to the national conference, rethink your September. It's really all I wanted to say. 20s, yeah, I got the 20s over there on the table. I've had like nine folks already come up to me, so keep it coming. I still have a lot of 20s. And in the wise words of the late Gifford Pinchot, dollar bills, y'all. Yeah, that was it.
All right. Thanks, Joe. All right, I wanted to give everyone a really quick update on this incorporation process and new bylaws process. I know we've been talking about this for, it feels like years, and that's because it has been years. Maybe a year-ish ago, our incorporation process completed. We had a successful vote of the members. Michigan SAF is now its own incorporated entity. And that brings us in line with some of the direction that National SAF was instructing us to go. And I think overall it's been a very positive experience. Our next step that we're in right now is a revision of our bylaws. Our bylaws are supposed to reflect this new status as an incorporated entity. It's supposed to reflect our relationship with National SAF through an affiliate agreement, which is coming along here shortly. And so our Michigan SAF board put together a team led by Lee Mueller. I think Lee is here to kind of take a look at revising our entire bylaws. National SAF was really kind in giving us a template for what they think the bylaws ought to look like. And we already had a set of bylaws that we thought was okay. So that what the team did was try to merge those things together, propose some new ideas to make us more effective, more efficient, bring barriers down to try to get more good work done on behalf of SAF. And so we have that draft document prepared. The board has reviewed it or is in the process of reviewing it. We'll be making some changes. Hopefully at our summer board meeting, we'll have a vote to recommend the adoption of those bylaws by the membership. And our current bylaws say that any change to our bylaws have to be approved by majority of voting members. And so that means we have to send it out to all of you for review. So look for that sometime, maybe late summer, for adoption here towards the end of the calendar year. That sound right, Lee? Roughly? Okay, good. Good. Any questions on the bylaws or incorporation process? This has been like a long, drug out event. I think Michigan SAF was asking a lot of really good questions and took our time a little more than maybe some of the other state societies. We were on some lists that we probably didn't want to find ourselves on because we were taking our time to review the incorporation process and have a good vote. But I think it really was a result of a lot of good questions, a lot of thoughtful conversations about what this means for us as foresters in Michigan. Any questions? Okay, cool. I think the last thing I'll note here is about potential open positions. I have the good fortune to be able to travel the state, meet with a lot of you who work with family forest owners. And so I don't, if I was a better storyteller, I'd tell you where I heard this. I don't remember where I heard this, but somebody, a consulting forester was discussing interaction they had with their client, where their client said that they thought that the forester is the last noble profession. And that struck me. I think at the time it was sort of said, maybe by the forester as like a joke, like get a load what this guy said. But it really got me thinking about what it is that we do. I looked up the term noble profession, and it says vocations that prioritize the welfare of others above all else, often requiring a high level of dedication, integrity, and compassion. They contribute to the betterment of individuals and societies as a whole. I really feel like that fits what we do as foresters and as members of SAF. I won't make any claims that forestry and foresters are the last noble profession. I think all work is noble. I think doing work is noble. But I really appreciate Terry coming up here and talking a little bit about your why in particular. And I think that your why to being a member in SAF, especially Michigan SAF, does change over time. I think maybe my reasons for being a member now are different than I'm getting my 10-year pin this year than it was 10 years ago. I think it's become for me a lot less about what SAF provides me, but maybe a little bit more about what I can provide to my profession and what I can provide to SAF. There are a lot of tangible benefits that we can talk about in terms of networking and jobs and camaraderie and all those types of things, technical support and policy stuff that SAF does provide. But I really like the idea that I can support an organization that has a high ethical standard and a set of written ethical principles that we all think that foresters should adhere to. I appreciate that SAF has an accreditation system that evaluates the quality of education that our students are receiving and that they're going to be effective stewards of our land. I appreciate that SAF credentials professionals. I'm really proud of having the certified forester credential after my name, and I'm glad to support an organization that sort of shares those values and has a standard of operation such that our erosion or our standard of being a forester doesn't become eroded. I think there are lots of ways to be a member too. And that's really what I wanted to get at. We were really fortunate to have a handful of interested Michigan SAF members attend our board meeting last night because they have expressed some interest in either being on the board or serving on one of our many committees, whether it's the Committee on Policy, membership, communications, finance, the whole spectrum of opportunities that we have to develop leaders and to help you serve our profession. And so those of you in the room who are still interested in finding new ways to serve your profession and to serve Michigan SAF, come talk to any one of us who are on the board. We'd be happy to find an opportunity to plug you in, whether it's in a formal board position or serving on one of these committees. Very specifically, my term as the state society chair ends here at the end of the year. They're 2-year terms, and so does that of Joe Huber, who's our vice chair. And I think Joe might be on Zoom today. So we are looking for new leaders to chart the next path for Michigan SAF. And it doesn't mean that you have to be an existing board member or an existing leader. What we're looking for are enthusiastic, well-organized individuals who want to serve their profession and their state society, who are motivated to lead a really great group of foresters with a really good strategic plan. I'm happy to chat about the requirements and the expectations of being the chair. I'm sure Joe Huber would be happy to talk about the expectations of being the vice chair. If you have questions, come talk to me. Daphne is the head of the nominations committee. Daphne will be collecting nominations, trying to solicit interest in some of these positions. So if you don't feel like you want to come talk to me, go talk to Daphne. She's much kinder than I am. I've really enjoyed my time as the chair of Michigan SAF. It's been a huge it's been very powerful, the effect that it's had on my career and my personal and professional life. I just wanted to thank everyone here in this room for the opportunity to serve you for the past 4 years. Not going anywhere. I'll just join a committee and continue to support, but I think it's time for a new chair. So our game plan is to hopefully have a large suite of candidates going into the summertime. Maybe at our fall conference, we can offer folks an opportunity to do a little campaigning, maybe stand up in front of everyone and give a stump speech about why they think they're the individual to lead SAF for the next couple of years. Shortly after that, I don't know, late fall, early winter, we'll send out an electronic ballot. So look for that in your email boxes, probably through some sort of Google voting system. So don't think that's spam if it's like coming from Google. That's legit. And then that new term will start at the beginning of the year, January 1st, and we'll be good to go with our new leadership. Ellie, was there anything else that we were supposed to talk about? Yeah, we probably should do that. This is technically our business meeting. You don't know that. This is our business meeting. We've done a good job keeping it a secret up until now, so that no one left. I think the doors were locked as soon as I started talking.
We've got a breach in the system.
So there are some things that we are technically supposed to do every time that we have a business meeting. Normally, we're much more formal when there are actual things to act on or bigger ticket things for members to be aware of. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of that in front of us right now. But we really should take a look at the minutes from the last time that we all met as members. And we might even go as far as approving the minutes. All right, supported by Lee. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
So share with this. They actually might have more time to read it than ours.
I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented indicate by saying aye. Wow, all opposed indicate by the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. It doesn't have to be hard. Mike, I think we're good to do students next. All right. Yeah. No, we'll keep going. We're good. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. Terry is not done talking.
Never. Yeah, he made a mistake. Give me the mic back. A couple of quick things I just want to share with folks. A new opportunity that just came up and the applications are still open. So we had a member who passed away and his estate gave a pretty substantial sum to SAF. And in talking with his family, Mr. Hill, he had just a great interest in supporting early career professionals and students. And so we took that to develop a new national scholarship because ironically, SAF didn't have a national scholarship for undergraduate students. So so that application is open for the Hill scholarship. I believe it's up to $1,500 a year. And then also there are grants for early career professionals to support them in their professional development or a variety of other things that they may be interested in. So just know that those are open. I believe they close, that application period closes May 15th, but just something new from SAF nationally to support folks in general. And last but not least, there will be more news to come and some other things that'll be announced, but just a reminder that next year is SAF's 125th anniversary. So we're looking forward to how we can celebrate that with all of you and best, again, represent the profession and showcase the amazing things that we do. So wanted to share that. Thanks.
Yeah, Lauren.
Real quick before we move on. So last fall, collected interest of folks who wanted to be part of a mentorship program. And so I had 30 some members sign up and fill out a Google form for me because I needed more information from you than just your email. And then I had 20 some students. Me and Tara sent out some information to folks that were interested. If you have questions about that, come talk to me because this is very much on the students to connect with the professionals, right? And so I'm just curious of how much that has happened. Have you all gone out and got a coffee together and chatted about forestry and how awesome it is and how super jazzed you are to be part of a really cool group of people? Or was this program not enough and didn't meet your needs, or you still have outstanding questions or anything like that? Because I don't know, this is our maiden voyage. I'm just curious how it's going and if we're even still on track or if the boat has sunk. I don't know. So please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, at this point, we get to hear directly from our students. So we started out the morning by talking about we've got 50 students here from 4 universities and at least 1 high school. And I'd like to invite up several of those students and an occasional faculty member in there. If we could get Emily Valencourt from State to come on up, and John Siskinernetz from Tech. John, if you want to come on up. And let's see, we've got several students from Bay College at up in Escanaba. So if some Bay College students can come on up. And I believe we had Bill Perkis, faculty at Gogebic, to come on up. And Emily, I got to find what I did with your presentation. So take it away there, John.
So as Mike said, my name is John Siskinenitz, and I'm the president of the Michigan Tech Forestry Club. For about another 2 weeks, I'm graduating. So, so some of the things that we've been up to this year included we hosted woodchuck games up in Alberta at the Ford Center. This was really enjoyable. We had State come up with us and had a really good time. This is the first time our club has done timber sports since before COVID. So it was really nice to kind of get back out there into the games. Speaking of woodchuck games, we were looking for sponsors for potentially doing one next fall. So we're looking for cants as well as cookies for that. That would go a long way in supporting our timber sports. So we can talk later if you guys are interested in that. We sent 4 students to the National SAF Conference in Sacramento. Fortunately, with the funds we're receiving now, the $5,000, we're going to be able to send a lot more students next year. And we're really looking forward to going to Loveland. We also took 2nd place in the Quiz Bowl. So shout out to MTU. Earlier this winter, we got involved with the Michigan Big Tree Program. We took a nice snowshoe hike and checked out and measured the 5th largest registered white cedar in the state, which was a really exciting trip that our club took. And the most important thing, the accomplishment that we've done this year, we've essentially doubled our membership. We've sent 20 students to this conference, which has been really great, especially since, as Mike was talking about earlier, about women involvement in this society. We have 11 of our students who came up who are women. So that just goes to show our commitment to inclusion and diversity within our club and at our school. So that being said, just to kind of wrap things up, I'd like to see who's all the Michigan Tech alumni here. Just raise your hand, stand up. Yeah. So my fellow tech students right now, find the people who raise their hand and hear their favorite stories about tech and continue those bonds. There's a good support system out there for everyone. So thank you for your time.
All right. Hello all, my name is Liam. I am a student in the Michigan State dual enrollment program with Bay College. This is my first year back in school. I graduated in 2019. I decided to become a carpenter, and I realized I love being out in the woods because that's where we did most of our work. And I'm here to talk about the academic processes that we go through in this program. This is based around wildland wildfire fighting. So we got certified in that aspect of forestry. I think it's, the need for wildland wildfire fighting is growing, and that's an important aspect of forestry. We go out, we're blessed with the Forest Innovation Center out in Hyde, Michigan, where that's where we do most of our
practices, we, as all of us know, the necessary components needed to take forest inventory. We learn how to use a compass and clinometers and how to input data in Excel, which is a very important aspect to forestry. And I encourage, everybody that I meet, I encourage to look into this program because I think it's beneficial for future generations in land management. And I'm proud to be a part of a great, society of forestry. So these are my peers, Cole and Logan. We decided to take it as a team and come up and talk to all you guys. Holy cow. Holy cow. Well, thank you for listening. I'll pass it off to my peer, Cole.
My name's Cole. I'm also in this program, my first year. Actually just started last semester. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. Biggest crowd I've definitely talked in front of. So I'll talk about some of like the activities that we've done, not just sitting around in the classroom, but also going out doing stuff. We've gone to the Hartwick Pines, actually on our way down here. Check that out, the old growth. It's pretty cool to see. We've gone to the what was the tree nursery? Sylvania Tree Nursery. We've gone to the Billerud Paper Mill, the Lumberjacks, Lumberjacks hardwood mill. That was pretty cool. Where else have we gone? Oh, we helped out with the Maple Weekend at the FIC, which went pretty good. Anything else that I missed? That's about it. All right, I'll pass it off to Logan.
My name's Logan. I'm in the same program, and part of the course is we have to have required 480 hours of like internship hours. So if there's anybody out there offering a summer internship, come hit us up. We'll be walking around later, and we have flyers over by our table. They kind of like outline some of the coursework and stuff we do in the class. Finally, I just wanted to thank everybody here for allowing us the opportunity to come out here and attend such an event. So thank you.
Hi, I'm a really old student. No, actually, I'm Bill Perkis. I run the Gogebic Community College Forestry Technician Program. And the stories of my retirement are highly overrated. It doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. But I do have a really great replacement that we're training. And that's one of the reasons why I don't have any of my students here today, is because he set up the firefighting field day for Friday. So they all decided to learn how to fight fire and instead of coming here. And so anyway, that's a really new thing for us because I didn't know anything about fire. I'm a forester, but I was really a soil scientist. But he was really big into fire, so he brought that to our program, just like what you guys just did. That's what we're doing at our school now, so it's very exciting. And I'm a past forestry club president, by the way, so of Michigan Tech. So back when Hesterberg was in charge up there. Anyway, good things are going. Our program is continuing along. We usually have between 15 and 20 students in our program at any one time. Have a couple of graduates coming out. I think they're already hired. So thank you, whoever hired them. So they get hired as quickly as we can graduate them. It's really, there's a definite shortage of forestries. And thank you for Bay College for coming in there to taking some of the load off of us. Cause I used to get phone calls. How come none of your guys have applied for my job? Well, there's only 4 of them and they're already hired by somebody else, but it's going very, very well. I am cutting back. I'm down to full time now, from because we got a new, and the new guy's going to pick up a couple more classes. So I actually get to go down to like 0.8 or something like that next year, and hopefully a little bit more after that. So we're kind of tapering off, but I think I'll probably end up face down in the hallway like some of the other faculty that we just can't leave there until we die. They take us out on a gurney type of a thing. So, but anyway, we're having a great time. My coworker, we're kind of codependent right now. His name is Chuck Norgren, and he's a retired Wisconsin DNR forester, and he was real big into fire and a really good timber marker. So he's filling a lot of gaps. I'm kind of the bug and slug guy, all things considered. I teach disease and ecology and things like that. But anyway, it's going very, very well. And again, if you have, children, nephews, nieces, cousins, whatever, that would like to try some forestry out, we certainly have room in our program to accept any and all. We're much cheaper than the big schools, much cheaper than the big schools. And that's a big thing, and our credits transfer everywhere, just as big colleges do. So it works out really, really well for everyone. Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Valancourt. I am the Forestry Club president for 2024. I figured instead of me telling you guys what club has been up to, I would show you guys what club has been up to. Yeah. I'm hoping the videos work. If they don't, I'm really sorry. Oh no. There we go. So as Tech mentioned, we did go up to them in October. Yeah, to participate in their woodchuck games. And our, I guess, department creative director, Lauren, put together a really cool video. So hopefully it works. Having that and having us up there, I definitely think everyone enjoyed that weekend, and hopefully next fall.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, yes, please. And then every year the Forestry Club puts on a Christmas tree sales, and this is definitely one of our big fundraising events. So this is just a little video that our lovely creative director, Ren, helped me put together. Yeah, I didn't take a video of when Will was pulling a big tree through and he fell. So I didn't get a video of that. We've also been kind of struggling at getting Christmas trees in like the Lansing area. So if anyone has any connections to the Lansing area when it comes to Christmas trees, please come talk to me because we've been struggling the last couple of years to get trees. And then this year we had our own maple syrup festival. It was definitely smaller compared to like Fenner Nature Center puts on theirs. But we received a grant a couple years ago to get a new boiler system and set up. So in order to fulfill that grant, we had to host our own maple syrup festival. So we went ahead and did that this year. It was just open to like the forestry department because we weren't really sure what the heck we were doing. So I think if we continue to do this again, it'll definitely be opened up to the public, and I will make sure to get invites out to everyone in this room. when that happens. People got a tour of our sugar bush, and they kind of got walked through the process of how the boiler works and everything. And then some of our members made pancakes for everyone. And of course, we're selling merch and everything. And I think everyone had a really good time. And it snowed before, so that was kind of nice to have the snow with us. So then what's next for club? We're actually burning at McCready next week on Monday as of right now. And we love going out and burning with KJ because it's so much fun. And KJ is just really good to burn with. And then, as Tech mentioned too, we're looking at sending about 5 students to the national conference. We actually did end up having one student go to the Rising Professional Conference, and that kind of inspired us to send more students to national just because he had such a positive experience and gained a lot of networking and just a lot of good experience. And then sadly, last year, we didn't participate in the homecoming parade float, and this is something that really helps bond the club and helps us get like recruiting members and everything. So this coming up fall, we're gonna really try to have that again, because it's just a big fun time, and we really miss doing that because we also hand out little saplings to people in the parade and everything. So that's it from me.
Thank you very much, guys.
Raju Pokarel, we're going to continue our university reports with a couple of faculty reports. Thank you, John, Emily, and everyone. Thanks for coming up, guys. You guys did great. On a handheld or this one?
Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Raju Pokhrel. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Forestry at Michigan State. For those who know me, they may be saying like, not him again. He's going to talk about the same survey. But I have to talk about it because we are not getting enough responses. The survey is out through mail, email, and internet. So if you have got anything in the email, this is going to consulting foresters, loggers, and mill managers. So if you have got this, please respond. This is not a spam. So look at your spam. If you have got it from Michigan State University, please respond to this. We are trying to collect information on logging businesses, wood prices, harvesting from private and public, and all kind of ownerships, so that we can produce report. And this is not one-time thing. We want to develop a system where we have a quarterly or seasonal or annual, depending on how often we get response report, so that we can have wood prices and all other information related with forestry. So this already happens with other states like Wisconsin, most of the southern and western states. For some reason, we never had this in the state of Michigan. So this is what we are doing, and we will keep doing, and I'll keep coming and asking for the help in all the meetings until you respond. So, and there is a poster there which has information, email address. If you use your phone, you can scan code to respond to this survey. We have physical copies if you want to take with you. We don't need the exact numbers. If you have done harvesting, if you know how many acres, some approximation is okay. And then we are going to, so you don't have to be to the precise to the dot. And then you can see another poster, which is on the mass timber, and you will see a lot of nice graphs and information on that. And I asked my 2 graduate students, Para, who is doing logging survey, and Iksha, who is working on mass timber, to produce those 2 reports so that you can see the difference when there is information which we get and when we don't have any information. You can clearly see the distinction. So please provide us with those information so that we can serve you, we can help you, and we can produce a free report on an annual, quarterly, or a seasonal basis. Thank you all.
We have 2 department chairs here, and so if we could get Dr. David Fastfolder and Dr. Rich Kobe to come on up and give reports as well, that'd be wonderful.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Those of you that don't know me, I'm David Flaspohler. I'm the Dean of the College of Forest Resources and Environmental Science at Michigan Technological University. I want to thank Mike and Ellie and everyone else that's contributed to this meeting. I don't know if like me, every time you feel like a little itch, I've been trying not to think about my night last night in the Ramada, and I've already have moved. But I want to just sort of update people a little bit on some things going on in our college, and then finish with a little story that I think says a lot about the character of our students. So you saw all the hands up earlier, so I'm going to start with a little shameless promotion here. Our college has been growing quite rapidly. The last 5 years, we've grown undergrad in numbers by over 40%. So last fall, we built an addition at the Ford Center and doubled the size of the main classroom. And outside that addition, then there's going to be a patio made of engraved bricks. And so this is an opportunity for people to support the college, have your name engraved on a brick, or a family member or another alumni or a friend. There's a lot of spouses met each other at the Ford Center, so we'll try to put a heart on some of them if that's the category you're in. But that starts on May 1st. So if you're an alumni and you want to support the college in that way, you'll get some communication on May 1st, or you can contact me. We added a new degree program. We have 7 degree programs. So in addition to forestry, I won't go through them all, but the new one is environmental data science. So this is a degree program really aimed at training students to use environmental data, whether it's forestry, wildlife, atmospheric, oceanic data, to look for patterns and to understand and to address questions and problems that are emerging in our in the environment right now. So finally, I just want to share a story that I have to leave a little bit early tomorrow because I have to get back to Michigan Tech by 6 p.m. when the student awards banquet happens. And at that banquet, 7 of our students in our college are going to receive the Bravery Award. And the reason for that is the story behind that is last fall during our fall camp at the Ford Center, one evening, one of our students on his own ATV went out to gather mushrooms for a class project in the evening. And while he was doing that, he was in contact with his girlfriend who was in Minnesota, and they were texting each other, and she had the ability and he had the ability to kind of geolocate them while they were out. And at some point in the evening, she stopped hearing back from him when she contacted him. And some hours went by and she grew really concerned, and she ended up contacting some of the students that were at the Ford Center. They were also really concerned. It was dark at this point. They downloaded her geolocator data from what she had been using to track him. They had Avenza software, which is a mapping software that they had gotten for the class. And they put those two things together, and they determined where he was likely to be. And they went out at night, and sure enough, he was unconscious, had an accident on his ATV, a pretty serious accident. But it was really their commitment and their use of technology and their care that they showed toward their colleague that really literally saved his life. He spent several weeks in Marquette Hospital, was in a recovery center in Colorado, and is doing much, much better. Slowly but surely has improved from a brain injury. So to me, that story, the way those students acted, 2 of them are here, at least 2 of them are here today. And I just I wanted to share that because it says so much about what our students are capable of and how much they care about each other. So please join me in just giving them a round of applause for that act. So thanks again to Mike and Ellie and everyone else, and enjoy the rest of the time. I'll turn it over to Rich.
Thanks, David. Good afternoon, everyone. So first, I want to start with just saying that Michigan is really fortunate in having 2 outstanding forestry schools, and I think that we should all be really proud of that. And I appreciate the updates from all the student groups and everything that's going on. And not only do we have the 4-year programs, but We also have the two-year programs that are really important for the forestry profession. Just a few updates from MSU. First, I wanted to mention, kind of playing off of Bill's comments regarding affordability in higher ed. We really are working hard at that, and we are giving out more than $300,000 in scholarships now every year at MSU. And students who have financial need, we're really working hard to ensure that they can get a quality education. The second thing that I wanted to mention, which is another aspect, an innovative program in increasing the talent pool in forestry, is that we have an online hybrid master's degree program in forestry now, and it's getting a fair bit of traction. It has achieved candidate status for accreditation from SAF, so we're on path for accreditation, especially for folks who are in organizations where somebody might be career limited because they don't have a degree in forestry. This is a great program for them. We're really targeting working professionals. We're from other fields who want to make a switch into forestry. And it's kind of interesting that one of the most common profiles of the folks that we're attracting are teachers. It doesn't say a lot about the state of education in this country, perhaps, but it does say something about the interest in our profession. And one other thing that I want to mention, and I'm really delighted that we've hired a new silviculture professor. David Carter is going to be joining us in August. He's currently an assistant professor at Virginia Tech. Really great program in silviculture. He has degrees from 3 degrees in forestry, 1 from University of Wisconsin, Maine, and Minnesota. And he's really going to bring a lot more capacity to our program because, as you heard from Evan earlier today, Mike Walters, he may have retired from his faculty position, but he's going to continue on with his research program. So we're really going to increase our capacity for silviculture research and extension, as well as education in the state of Michigan. So with that, I'll close out my comments. And again, thanks everyone for being here.
All right, we are 6 minutes ahead of schedule. So that's spectacular. That means you've got 66 minutes to enjoy lunch. We're going to come back here at 1:30. We've got lunch right outside in the hallway there, and I believe go fill up on some food. I think come on back here and enjoy a meal, and we'll get going again at 1:30. Folks on Zoom, we are going to end the morning session and close this out, and we're going to open up a new session at 1:30. So we are closing out the Zoom. Thanks, everybody.